Do you know what you won't see in a Disney movie? Owls having a freaking knife fight, or what is essentially a Nazi orphanage where young birds become soldiers against their will. Honestly, you won't find that in almost any animated movie. Because the entire genre, if you want to call animated films a genre, hasn't really evolved in the last couple of decades. My name's Josh Taylor, this is Modern Mouse, and today I want to talk about Zack Snyder's animated film Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, and how it tried to push the boundaries of animation. This video is part of the Director Project. Each month, a group of YouTubers who love to talk about films get together to celebrate a certain director. This month, we're talking about Zack Snyder. I've added this month's playlist, as well as previous month's playlists that I was involved in the description below, so feel free to check out all of the other submissions. And if you'd like to add your video to the playlist, you can. Just make a video and send it to my friend's Cult Popshire on Twitter, and they'll add it to the playlist. Mainstream American animation's biggest problem since the turn of the 21st century is that it's become formulaic in its style. Since its introduction in 2001, the Best Animated Film at the Academy Awards has gone to 13 Disney or Pixar films out of the last 20 years. And I'm not saying that those weren't deserved. Movies like Up, WALL-E, Big Hero 6, and Zootopia are all great movies, but they all kind of feel similar. The movies that weren't from Disney or Pixar, like Happy Feet or Shrek, still feel derived from the innovation that Pixar brought to the table with computer animation. Of those winning films, the only one that really feels like it has pushed animation forward in some way is Into the Spider-Verse, Sony Animation's take on a Spider-Man comic book come to life. The formula for animation has continued to make things cartoonish and cute, giving us heroic journeys that never veer too dark, with simplified titles to reach a genderless audience. Take the singular year of 2010, for example. That year we got Alpha and Omega, Despicable Me, Tangled, How to Train Your Dragon, Toy Story 3, Open Season 3, and that fourth Shrek movie. All of those films have a similar look and feel about them. Animation's stylistic approach became whatever Pixar was doing. Even Disney Animation, once a leader in the art form, took on the style of Pixar when John Lasseter became the head of both Disney and Pixar Animation. There are a lot of good stories here, and in that way this video isn't really about storytelling. It's about pushing the art form of animation in a bold new direction, which none of these films actually have done. That's why I find it interesting that in that same year, there was one film that pushed the envelope: Zack Snyder's Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Legend of the Guardians is a film adapted from a series of fantasy books by author Catherine Lasky, and it follows Soren the Owl, who falls from his nest along with his brother and is picked up by two other owls from the Pure Ones, a group of owls who believe that barn owls are the superior race and that all other owls are impure and should be killed. You know, like Nazis. There they are trained to be either soldiers or to dig for metal to help build a superweapon. Soren escapes and goes on a quest to find the Guardians of Ga'Hoole, who in return come to fight the Pure Ones. And since Soren's brother was trained to be a soldier for the Pure Ones, he ends up battling Soren and dying in a fire. Furious about his brother's death, Soren grabs a flaming tree branch and stabs the leader of the Pure Ones, successfully scaring off the rest of these Nazi owls and earning a place amongst the Guardians of Ga'Hoole. That was a pretty simplified version of what this film is. The hour-and-a-half movie is filled with complicated names and conversations about purity, tall tales, and family. Ga'Hoole is dark and scary, and honestly, it's not a family film in the same way that Shrek 4 is. This movie does have a happy ending, but to get there, we watch Soren's brother die, we watch Soren almost die multiple times, and we watch Soren become a Nazi owl slave. Zack Snyder's approach to animation was to go against the grain, and not to dumb down a story about fantastical owls. He also made the choice to use computer animation in a very different way. While Tangled and Despicable Me were creating cute characters, The Owls of Ga'Hoole is hyper-realistic. The animation of the forest and the animals, along with the lighting and effects, make this film radically different than anything else that we were seeing in animation. A few other films have tried to look more realistic, like Disney's Dinosaurs, but Zack Snyder was mashing together a complicated fantasy tale, similar to Lord of the Rings, with such hyper-realism that it doesn't feel like anything else. Imagine if Disney tried to do this with Zootopia, but instead of all of the cute characters in this metropolis, we saw realistic-looking animals living in a city like New York. Snyder's filmmaking has continually been filled with large action sequences and slow motion, and bold choices and coloring, all of which we get in Owls of Ga'Hoole. It's something that personally feels old and stale in Snyder's big action blockbusters, but feels fresh and unique when it comes to the animated world, since the genre rarely sees big battle sequences. What Zack Snyder brings to animation is a breath of fresh air. I think any director that gets stuck in a certain genre for too long becomes comfortable. Zack Snyder entered the world of animation not knowing how to make an animated movie, and had to work with the animators from Animal Logic Studios to bring his vision to life. This movie reminds me of when Don Bluth left Disney Animation and started making movies at his own studio. He started making movies like The Secrets of Nim or The Land Before Time. Movies that had a darker tone with characters who struggled with more complex problems. You can also harken back to Jim Henson's films of the 1980s, which differentiated themselves from the cuteness of the Muppets. Dark Crystal and The Labyrinth were a push forward in puppetry in the same ways that Don Bluth was trying to push animation forward, and in the same ways that Zack Snyder was trying to do it here in the 21st century. Granted, Zack Snyder is known more for his look and feel of films rather than having any kind of interesting storytelling, and The Owls of Ga'Hoole does suffer from that. The plot of the film becomes convoluted and the words from the page don't always translate to the screen. But this film delivers big in visuals and effects. I've always seen The Owls of Ga'Hoole as a stepping stone to something else. The first leap in a new direction for animation from a lesser known studio, working with a director that doesn't normally make animated films. The unfortunate part about that is that no one capitalized on this first step. Zack Snyder left animation behind to be a major name for Warner Bros. DC film franchise, and Animal Logic would move on to making the Lego movies, which, again, are good films, but still don't feel like they're pushing animation in any bold new direction. Disney and Pixar in the last few years have given some of their younger animators and directors the chance to make new and interesting things in short films. But just like with the other big animation studios, DreamWorks and Illumination, major theatrical releases seem to continue to play it safe, giving us cute characters, lots of sequels, and a style of animation that just continues to be less and less exciting the more I see it. Zack Snyder will never go down as a big name in animation because he and his movie never really got the credit that they deserved in what they tried to do. Or maybe this is one of those movies that's just going to become a cult classic. A movie ahead of its time that will inspire someone in the future to create some animation evolution. All I know is that I hope that that evolution comes sooner or later. Leave your thoughts and let me know what you think about Legend of the Guardians or animation and the state of animation in general, more its style than its storytelling. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can. Down in the description below or at the end of this video, there will be a link to the Patreon page where I put up exclusives all the time. And also check out the merch shop where you can get awesome t-shirts and stickers to help support the channel to continue making awesome videos. And in the meantime, thank you for watching and keep moving forward.